We begin tonight with breaking news out of Skamania County, where a new wildfire has broken out just north of Carson, prompting evacuation orders. Level 3 Go Now evacuation orders are issued for all of Bear Creek Road and Wind River Highway from milepost 3 to milepost 4. And a Level 1 Be Ready order has been issued for Old State Road. We'll bring you more information as soon as we get it. Well, that is the festive scene in downtown Portland this afternoon for the annual Portland Pride Parade. Tens of thousands of people watched more than 100 floats go by along the waterfront. And as Thomas Schultz reports, the parade was more than just a celebration of pride.
Families we spoke with say this parade is the best way to celebrate pride every year. Some come back year after year. For others, it's their first time, but they plan to carry the tradition over to the next generation. Over time, it becomes more difficult to see family. Some choose Thanksgiving or Christmas to bundle up inside and spend time with those closest to them. Others choose warm, sunny days in the middle of July.
It's like a huge family reunion that happens here at the parade.
Not just community, family, spent with people closest to them.
Yeah, we're here every year.
Ryan Talaski Brown and his husband David have been married a while.
2018, I think.
Their wedding ordained by Jamie, who married her wife in February. Their wedding was officiated by David and Ryan.
Jamie and Rachel are like family.
As time goes on, families grow. And in big families, it can feel like there's always a new relative to get to know.
A lot of families, a lot of toddlers. It feels like we're getting older.
Rachel and Jamie have been going to Pride events for 25 years. A lot's changed during that time.
When we first started going to Pride 25, 30 years ago, the police were not on our side. It's great to see the police actually marching with us and being there as part of our community now.
Not just marching, riding along too.
Everyone can be in it.
Lawson Elkins is here with family friends. She may only be 9, but she's wise.
It celebrates how everyone has equality.
Beyond her years. But many know Pride isn't as accepted in other areas of the country, making this parade even more impactful.
I think it's super important, especially now, with the way LGBTQ rights are under attack in this country.
To gather with family, some of whom are from out of town, to support and uplift each other.
This is our power in numbers.
Now, Porta says costs have increased. Insurance is up 20% this year from last. But she says attendance of the parade is higher than ever before and louder, too. In downtown Portland, Thomas Schultz, KGW News.
Well, developing tonight on the Oregon coast, a stretch of Cannon Beach has been closed for much of the day after a cougar was spotted on Haystack Rock this morning. This is a live look at the beach, and lifeguards are keeping people from getting too close. Let's bring in Ashley Grams, who's there. And Ashley, what more can you tell us?
Blair, it's just something you don't see very often, especially in the summer. The beach next to us here around Haystack Rock, as you said, is closed. There's no one down there, and that is because the cougar that you spoke of is still on the rock. It was about 6:30 in the morning when a photographer we talked to spotted the cat. He told us he was trying to take pictures of the puffins when something else caught his eye. Now, there's lots of personnel out here, including Cannon Beach Police, Department of Fish and Wildlife, and Oregon State Parks. Now, police and city officials talked with us. They told us that they would like to see this cat leave on its own. Now, the plan is to wait until the tide goes out tonight. That is around 8 p.m. and they're going to hope this cat walks off the rock on its own back into the dunes safely, and everyone is able to enjoy the beach coming up here tomorrow. Of course, we'll continue to track this, see when this cat leaves the rock, if it leaves the rock on its own. For now, reporting in Cannon Beach, Ashley Grams, KGW News.
All right, Ashley, thank you. Well, Joe, that's a pretty crazy story out there.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it when I heard it. We got in at around 2:30.
Yeah.
That's what they were talking about on the afternoon call.
It's wild.
I don't think I've ever witnessed or heard of a cougar shutting down an entire beach. But, you know, the low tide could make a difference for that cat, and it might make it a little bit easier for first responders who are waiting for that cat to come down from the rock. But here's another live look out there along the Oregon coast. Conditions are relatively calm, overcast skies, and as you can see, the seas are calm as well. Temperatures in the low 60s. Yeah, a big difference in the temperatures out there along the coast compared to the valley, where we're looking at daytime highs again with temperatures in the upper 80s to the low 90s. Now, no watches and warnings are in place here locally, but you travel into the Columbia River Gorge, the Dalles, and throughout much of the central and eastern side of the state, you're under a heat advisory. This red color is that red flag warning. Basically encompasses a good part of the east side of the Columbia River Gorge, I should say, along I-84 and down in parts of High Desert, Bend, Redmond, eastern Oregon, down in southern Oregon. You're looking at some very warm conditions out there. That heat advisory will be in place until the later part of this evening. We saw highs in the low 90s this afternoon, 92 really throughout many locations from Vancouver all the way down to Wine Country and McMinnville. Troutdale, a temperature of 93 degrees. Now throughout the Dalles, big reason why you have that advisory in place for the fire danger and heat, of course, is highs close to 100 degrees. So much cooler to start the week. Tomorrow, morning clouds followed by afternoon sunshine. Again, it might be a little bit cooler for tomorrow, but Blair, I'm tracking a return of temperatures right around 90 degrees heading into the later part of this week. I'll let you know how long that sticks around coming up in my detailed forecast.
All right, Joe, thank you. A person is in custody tonight after a woman was found stabbed to death on the west side of Gresham. Around 7 this morning, officers found the woman inside a residential facility on Northeast 165th Avenue. Her age and identity have not been released yet. The East County Major Crimes Team is investigating this homicide, and police say there is no threat to the public. In St. John's, a person riding a motorcycle died in a crash on North Marine Drive, and another is in custody. Now, it all happened just before midnight Saturday, and this crash had a lot of moving parts for the officers involved. They were originally working a street racing mission when the motorcycle crashed into the side of an SUV. The rider died at the scene. Those in the SUV were not seriously hurt, but it took an ambulance a while to get there. That's because of an illegal street takeover that blocked all traffic on North Marine Drive at the I-5 interchange. So the ambulance had to take a long detour to get there. Now, during the investigation, another person on a motorcycle sped through the crash scene and nearly hit 2 officers. That led to a nearly hour-long chase, which ended in Gresham. That rider was arrested and now faces a long list of charges. Well, in East Portland, a bar and cafe is closed after a dumpster fire spread to the building, causing lots of damage. The fire was reported around 7:30 this morning at Kelly's Cafe on Southeast Division near 147th. By the time firefighters got there, the fire had spread into the roof. Luckily, though, they were able to knock it down, and the cause is still under investigation. In Milwaukee, one home was destroyed and another damaged in an overnight fire there. Around 10 last night, Clackamas and Portland Fire responded to a home on Southeast Harrison Street, just off Highway 224. Flames were spreading to nearby trees and the home next door. Thankfully, everyone got out safely. Police are now looking for people neighbors say were near the fire when it started, as they continue to investigate the cause. Well, now to a traffic alert many have been dreading. The Lewis and Clark Bridge will close tonight at 8, and it will remain closed for the next 8 days. The bridge carries an average of 20,000 vehicles a day between Rainier and Longview, and it's the only bridge across the Columbia between I-5 in Portland and US 101 in Astoria. So why does such an important bridge have to close? Well, crews need to replace 2 finger joints and a fractured floor beam. While it's an inconvenience, it's all to extend the life of the 93-year-old bridge.
It's important for the bridge to move and be flexible. And part of that process is replacing those finger joints. So the floor beam, the fracture we encountered, is a direct result of that lack of movement. So it's really imperative that we do this critical work.
Emergency vehicles, bikes, and pedestrians will be allowed to cross during the closure. There is also a ferry, but it has limited capacity. Otherwise, you'll have to make the long detour through Astoria or Portland to get across. A type of clam is in the Columbia River and in big numbers. That's the finding of a study by a team from Washington State University. And as Tim Gordon reports, the clams are not new to the river, though they may be a red flag for other animals and plants that don't belong.
This is a specimen of Corbicula fluminea. That's the scientific name for the Asian clam.
The Asian clam. It's been in the Columbia River since the 1930s, probably arriving on ship hulls or imported as a food item from Asia. Salvador Rob Chavez says there are a lot of them in the river now, from Astoria all the way to Tri-Cities.
They've been here for quite a long time, but most people don't know that they're, passing by them on I-84 every single day. They are in pretty abundant numbers all throughout the urban areas, especially of the Columbia River, but were found throughout the entire breadth of my study area.
Rob Chavez is a master's graduate in environmental science from Washington State University and the study's lead author. He says his team found Asian clams in concentrations of more than 400 per square meter in some samplings along the Columbia River.
They are known to be a detriment to our native mussels, which are a first food, a cultural resource for natives in the area. They can outcompete them for space, they outcompete them for food, and their condition and abundance is greatly diminished in the presence of the clam.
The invasive species eat plankton that native mussels eat, and up the food chain, so do salmon. And while Asian clams are bad enough, they are not the only invasive species in the river.
It's only a part of the puzzle of invasive species in the Columbia River. It's just one in a long laundry list of invasive species that have been brought to the system by human activities.
Rob Chavez says this study on Asian clams in the Columbia should serve as a warning about keeping other invasive species out of the river. Tim Gordon, KGW News.